Hello everybody and welcome to another video on Baldur's Gate 3. We recently saw the release of patch 4 Nature's Power. I've gone through the notes and managed to play around a bit with the changes. In this video I'll go over the ones that I consider to be the most important or noteworthy. Well, the biggest thing is obviously the addition of Druid as the new playable class. We'll now be able to transform into a bunch of different animals. Not dogs though, but maybe that's for the best considering all they do is roll around in other animals' feces and then get super sad when they have to take a shower. Anyway, this isn't a video about me and my dog, it's a video about the new changes to Baldur's Gate 3 after patch 4. Let's get into that now. Embrace the Heft, Larian said, and so I did. They were not kidding when they said that this patch was big and juicy. Like I said, I won't go over all the changes that were made in this video.
6.5 hours later.
If you'd like to do so yourself, you can find a link to the full patch notes in the description box below. So let's start with the big one. Druids are here now. You might say that they always were, but now they're a playable class, and actually no, they kinda weren't, but we'll get to that later. Before we get into some details about the Druids, I'd just like to take a moment and appreciate that Larian have actually opened up the door now to new playable classes being added during early access. I mean, this might just be me having missed this before, but I don't think Larian said exactly what new content they were planning on adding during early access. So I wasn't sure if we were to see new classes before full release. But here we are now, and I'm already sitting here thinking about what class I'd like to see next. Maybe Paladin, that's always a fun one. Do you have any class that you're especially excited to see? Let me know. Let's take a look at this here Druid class. So Druids are very versatile, being able to cast both supportive and destructive spells, and they of course have the ability to shapeshift into an animal through their wild shape ability. The Druid class has two subclasses called Druid Circles. One is the Circle of the Land that focuses more on spell casting, and the other is Circle of the Moon that focuses more on the wild shape ability. At the moment there are 7 forms that you can turn into, and more will be added as time goes on. The shapes you can turn into now are cat, badger, spider, wolf, bear, dire raven, and deep Rothe. How do you? Another cool thing about Druids being a proper class now is that all Druids in the Druid Grove are proper Druids now. Before they looked like Druids, they had abilities that made them act like Druids, but now all these NPCs are actually the Druid class with all its stats, proficiencies, and skills. And this also means that there are a lot of new interactions and dialogues with the Druids in the Grove if we play as a Druid ourselves. Before we move on from the Druid, the class comes with a bunch of new Druidic spells that have been added to the game. These spells are Entangle, Flame Blade, Moonbeam, Produce Flame, Shillelagh, Thorn Whip, Bark Skin, Destroy Water, Enhance Ability, Flaming Sphere, Good Berry, Heat Metal, Protection from Poison, and Spike Growth. Alright, let's move on from the Druid. Just like in patch 3, one thing that has been worked on are the cinematics. Now we'll get a cool cinematic whenever we speak to the dead. It's really spooky now, looks really cool.
The corpse regards you lifelessly.
Francis, merchant, selling pottery.
Aside from that, there are a lot of cinematics that have been touched up a little to simply look a bit nicer. Another thing that maybe isn't that big or important, but I think is quite nice, is that when you loot a body now, you see a portrait of the person you're looting. It makes things feel more real than just looting another random dead body by the side of the road. Some quality of life changes have been made. You can now target allies with abilities by clicking their character portrait in the bottom left of your screen. This is a very welcome change, I really really like this one. The biggest quality of life change, even if it doesn't affect me personally, is without a doubt that the goblin Sharp Eye no longer urinates from his torso, but now does this from his penis region. And I can tell you from experience that this is the optimal region to urinate from. Big change for Sharp Eye. Another nice little change is that you can now shove people off of the skiffs in the Underdark. Never, and I mean never ever, stop buffing Shove Larian. On a more serious note, there has been nice changes for those of you who enjoy co-oping BG3. You can now see the equipment, inventory, spells, and character sheets of the other players in the game. A new feature that I think is really neat, even though I'd never need it of course, is that you can now flee from combat. If you're 27 meters, yay metric system, or more away from the nearest enemy, you can press this button to flee from combat. Another thing that someone as masterful as me would never need, of course, is the loaded dice. Jokes aside, this feature has the game make the dice rolls a bit more in your favor. It's not a setting that automatically makes you succeed, but it will prevent you from failing a bunch of times in a row. So if you feel like the almighty RNG never favors you and you feel like it ruins the experience for you, you can activate this. If you don't want this, just simply don't turn it on. This feature is 1000% optional. And finally, I'd like to talk about something that isn't in the patch notes, but since there's a new class added to the game, they've also packed in a bunch of new voice lines. Some that you can find right now and some that are in the game files that you can't actually trigger yet. If you want to know more about this, I strongly recommend fellow BG3 YouTuber Chubblot, who has videos on his channel about all the new voice lines added. Like I said, not all of them are available for you to trigger in the game right now, since they're data mined from the game files, and some of them might be a bit spoilery, but if you don't care about that, big recommend to that channel. You can find a link to his video on companion voice lines after patch 4 in the description box below. Alright, before you leave, I'd just like to say that if you like what you've seen, you can always leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. Alright, that's it for this time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Bye.